What's up, good people? Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report, as well as cooking and tailgating with Joe Boo and Joe Boo's day job. You guys have literally been through pretty much everything about my life. If somebody were to ask me what my channel is about, I'm going to say it's me living, riding, and dying with the Dallas Cowboys because they have literally been part of my life. I wake up in the morning, I get my coffee after snuggling up with my beautiful bride of 22 years, and I see what's going on with the Dallas Cowboys, in which case, it doesn't matter if it's during the season or if it's the off season, there's always shit happening. So as a content creator, it's always really easy to be a Dallas Cowboy YouTuber. I don't know about other teams, but I know with the Cowboys that it definitely does. I'm getting ready to make some, what do we have in the freezer chili for dinner today, because I'm going through and I got a little bit of everything and I'm going to combine that and put it together. So here's the thing that we got this morning with the Dallas Cowboys is Brian Schottenheimer has been installed by Vegas as the odds-on favorite to land the job. Literally, it was 700 to 1 odds. Had you gone through and a couple weeks ago dropped $10 on Brian Schottenheimer being the coach of the Dallas Cowboys, you would have won $7,000. Yeah, Mike, 7,000. That's how bad the odds are. Right now, Brian Schottenheimer has better odds by Vegas than Kellen Moore to become the head coach. And here's what I'm going to actually compare the options of Kellen Moore, because I accidentally this morning when I started doing a video, I was recording because that news came across from RJ and Sean and RJ show. They popped out a video because they were discussing exactly that Brian Schottenheimer is now the brand new flavor in your ear. And of course, everybody is like, man, screw that guy, man. What does he know, man, and everything else. Versus Kellen Moore. I've been on the record to say I don't want Kellen Moore as head coach. I just don't see Kellen Moore as being a guy who can motivate troops. And I'm going to say that you are a product of your environment, okay? Mike right here is a product of my loins and a product of what he's learned from me. When he was born into this world, he was a blank slate. And what I will say about Mike is some of the things that he's learned from me is, one, electrical work, but he's learned about the value of hard work and understanding saving for another day. This guy, he's on the straight and narrow. Because, see, I'll say, man, dude, this isn't, no, that's not the right way, because that's what he's learned from me. When you think about coaching and you look at guys like Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan, those are guys that grew up in the pipeline because of their dad or working with Tampa Bay, that they paid their dues by being basically coaching rats. They were behind the, Sean McVay wasn't with his dad, but Kyle Shanahan was working there with his dad. But guys like Sean McVay, basically as a ball boy for Tampa Bay, learned from John Gruden. That's how what they got. And see, here's where I'm going to say, aside of having Brian Schottenheimer, who, mind you, he has been an offensive coordinator before. And see, he understands, because when he had Russell Wilson had, in 2020, just 4 years ago, the best year of Russell Wilson's career. He recognized that Russell Wilson can run, but we don't want him to be just a running quarterback. And they used a running game where they rushed for almost 2,000 yards with that offense. They valued being able to run the football and being balanced. And by doing so, by keeping Russell Wilson's passing down, they weren't the number one passing offense, yardage or anything like that, but they were extremely efficient. So with Russell Wilson's 4,200 yards, he had 40 TDs. 40 TDs and only 13 interceptions. Now, the interception number you could say is a little bit high, but if I'm getting 40 touchdown passes, I'm getting almost 3-1 touchdowns to interceptions. I'd be happy to take that. And here's the other part you have to also look at too is forget this past year. This past year was a pooch screw. We went from having, Zeke and Tony Pollard in that record-setting year that we had with Dak Prescott. When Kellen Moore left, it was Brian Schottenheimer who came in to be the right hand of Mike McCarthy. So as far as being able to instill that same offense in what they're doing, you've got a guy with him that can keep that consistency. And at this point, the Cowboys have invested, whether you like it or not, a king's ransom into Dak Prescott. So having consistency with Brian Schottenheimer, maybe it's that he's the offensive coordinator. I'd be okay with that. And maybe it's Mike Zimmer who's the head coach, and you end up bringing in Jason Witten to become the head coach. But here's the thing. He understands more because of his environment and his upbringing. Brian Schottenheimer, maybe some of you don't know, is Marty Schottenheimer's son. Marty Schottenheimer, well, he was the polar opposite of Mike McCarthy because he loved to run the football. He liked bruising football. When he had Barry Word from the University of from Virginia and Christian Okoye, two of the biggest, meanest backs there together, he was going to run through you. He could literally tell you, we're coming down your throat, and they did. The only problem with Marty Schottenheimer was the playoffs were an issue. So when I think about Brian Schottenheimer growing up with his dad, Marty, as a head coach, he's learned what it takes to motivate men because Marty Schottenheimer, that was a motivator of men. That is a guy who understands running the football. And I'm going to say that Brian Schottenheimer understands about balance. If there's a drawback to Mike McCarthy, it would be he believes in slinging the rock so much because he's a product of having Aaron Rodgers and having Brett Favre and Joe Montana. That's where he knew his bread and butter was coming. But he also knew that you needed multiple great receivers. In Green Bay, when they won the Super Bowl, they had Greg Jennings, Donald Driver, Jordy Nelson, and I want to say maybe Randall Cobb. They went 4 deep in wide receivers that you could look at and could say are all really credible wide receivers. Thing is, we never had that at any point with Mike McCarthy. And when you look back at 2 years ago, when we had Zeke, who wasn't quite as spent as he was, and Tony Pollard balling, we rushed the football for about 2,000 yards. And we were able to go ahead and be balanced, which brought out the best of Dak Prescott, being an MVP runner-up. Was it enough to win the Super Bowl? No. But that's where, if you can get that offense back to that point by literally getting another credible running threat and understanding we need to be balanced, and you add another wide receiver that is a quality wide receiver, I've got no problem with Jalen Tolbert and Jalen Brooks, being our 3rd and 4th wide receiver. But you're going to need to have another capable wide receiver there, another threat to be able to go through. And you're going to need to get either Jake Ferguson to do a 180 from where he was this year, or Schoonmaker to be a credible tight end. You do those things, your offense will be on point. Now, where does the defense go? Well, maybe Mike Zimmer, who's kind of in a holding pattern where he says everything's on the table from retiring to maybe being the head coach. I don't know what it is, but I would like to continue with him to continue building what he was working on. And I certainly would want to bring back Al Harris without a shadow of a doubt. And as far as Kellen Moore goes, because they are still playing and winning, if they win this weekend, then that means it's the middle of February before you could possibly hire him. And the Cowboys may not want to wait that long, especially since the Senior Bowl is going to be happening soon. And you're going to have the Combine. You really need to have a coach in place before then. And so Eagles winning may preclude Kellen Moore from getting a job. Now, Aaron Glenn is free. Ben Johnson. They're free to go ahead and interview with anybody starting today, and you may start seeing them by the end of the week. All of these, what?
So now we got to root for the Eagles if we don't want Kellen Moore to come to the Cowboys.
I think the Cowboys may have their coach before them.
Because the way you're saying is he may not get hired, which means that we have to root for the Eagles now.
Look, he's been trying to get jobs for the last 3 years. Probably nobody has more experience in doing job interviews
the way
than
you're
Kellen
talking,
Moore.
You're making my worst nightmare come true if I don't want Kellen Moore.
We're not getting Kellen. Kellen Moore will not be the head coach of the Cowboys. Okay? Put your money on that one. All right. We're getting ready to do our, what do we got in the freezer chili? So if you want to check that out, check out my other channel, Cooking and Tailgating with Joe Boo, because we got some incredible recipes. Just put the lollipop. Oh my God, Jet put his foot in. Lollipop drumsticks, and that's incredible. All right, peace.